March 9th, 1969, in the small town of Gulfport, Biloxi, Mississippi area, an area that has beaches and casinos and is not really shown when they talk about the state of Mississippi, even though it has its own past. It was the birthplace of the greatest shooter of all time in the history of basketball. If you know sports like me, you would agree with me, Chris Jackson. Upon Chris Jackson completing his senior season at Gulfport High School in Mississippi, I'm pretty sure he was heavily recruited by several teams in the Southeastern Conference. But he would make the decision to go to LSU. And in his first month as a player at LSU, he had 48 and 53 points. 53 points with 7 threes and 4 assists against the University of Florida. And I'm from Houston. So you got to realize that Vernon Maxwell was on this team. If you from Houston, you understand. He also had 55 points against Ole Miss, and that included 9 3-pointers. It was clear to see that this guy was great. And in my opinion, it's fact, this is the greatest season ever from a freshman in NCAA basketball history. He averaged 30.2 points per game and also had a total of 966 points. If you look at this play here, he doesn't hit the buzzer beater, but they're down by 2. And his intangibles when it comes to saving the basketball and just court awareness allow him to put the ball back in play where his team was able to hit the game-winning shot. After his sophomore season, he would choose to enter himself into the NBA draft, where he would be taken 3rd overall by the Denver Nuggets. Chris Jackson finally fulfilled his dream as being an NBA player. He would be added to a Denver Nuggets team that had a great player by the name of Michael Adams, but Chris Jackson was still able to make himself known, and though he didn't have the type of season he had at LSU in his freshman season, he still made people realize that he belonged in the NBA. In his first season, he would average 14 points on the Denver Nuggets team with an already established guard. He would have some of his best games against the best competition, especially in the 90s. He would even have a game where he scored 51 points against the Utah Jazz, in my opinion, against the greatest point guard of all time, in John Stockton. I know some people have different names. If you look at these highlights, you can clearly see when this man was on, he was on. He would have a 32-point game against the 1992 Trailblazers, who were a very guard-heavy team. This would be the year that the Portland Trailblazers would actually make it to the NBA Finals. Clyde Drexler, Cliff Robinson, and Terry Porter were a part of this team. In 1993, Chris Jackson would change his name to Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf after being given a book by his college coach, the autobiography of Malcolm X. He was also a part of that legendary team, the Nuggets, who were the first team to upset a number 1 seed in the 1994 playoffs. He would still go on to make a name for himself even after the name change, but a lot of people believe this is when he started getting quote-unquote blackball. He would have a 32-point game against the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan. And like I said, if you look at these highlights, this guy was basically unguardable. A lot of people who didn't see Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf play will say that Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. And that may be the case. But the NBA was different when Mahmoud played. It was an inside-outside league, which means the ball usually went to the post and then came back outside. The skills that this man possessed were before his time. Look at the quickness, the dishing ability, the driving ability. To be able to shoot on a dime. Just amazing. Look at this move he make on Steve Kerr. The quickness. This man had everything. On March 12, 1996, the NBA suspended Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf for his refusal to stand during the national anthem, costing him $31,707 per game. He said the flag was a symbol of oppression and tyranny.
he would make a compromise with the NBA where he would stand during the playing of the national anthem, but he would close his eyes and look downward. He would eventually get shipped to the Sacramento Kings. As you can see here, this is a game he had against Allen Iverson, where he pretty much gave Allen Iverson the business, a young Allen Iverson, coming off of screens, cuts. Like I said, in my opinion, this is the greatest shooter of all time in the history of the NBA, especially during the era of the 90s. He would eventually get traded to the Vancouver Grizzlies, and that would pretty much be the end of his career. And even though he had one of the greatest collegiate careers in the history of college basketball, a decent career as an NBA player, this is the picture that he's most known for. And I also failed to mention, which I didn't want to bring it up, but he suffered from Tourette's, which is something that he used to his advantage. I remember hearing stories of him saying that he would be at the park shooting basketball and every shot had to go in nothing but net. So if he went 10 for 10 and if he got to the 8th shot and it hit the rim, even if it still went in, he would start over. Just an example of somebody using something they have that most people may look at as an ailment or something to handicap them to his advantage. Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf was truly a very special player, and you have to give your props to him for standing up for what he believes in. This is the microphone, and there's more videos to come soon. Thank you for tuning in.